Hey y'all, welcome to, what did I say y'all? I'm not Southern. Hey party people, welcome to episode 2 of The Fire Guy. So today we're going to talk about my fire journey. How did I get from pretty much nothing to being able to retire in less than 10 years? So as I talked about in the last episode, I had just, gotten done with my second divorce, was in quite a bit of debt. And again, I don't know how much, 50 to 100K, excluding housing, of course, was going into, was putting 2,000 or so, 1,500 to 2,500 a month on credit cards just to survive, pay child support, alimony, support my new wife and stepdaughter and my daughter, and just everything that goes along with life. It just was difficult. I wasn't doing well and just going downhill. So at that point, I discovered Dave Ramsey. I have no idea how, but I decided to follow his debt snowball method to get myself out of debt. And for anybody who's looking to get out of debt, whether it's a couple $1,000 or a couple 100,000, I would highly recommend the debt snowball method, right? Of course, a lot of fire nerds, of which I maybe one, might say, optimize, pay off highest interest first. But I'll tell you, the most important thing, I believe, is getting those little dopamine hits, getting debt paid off quickly. So take your smallest debts, right? If you have a credit card with $500 on it, right? Put that first and just order your debts from smallest to largest. So you got 500K, 7,000, and 20,000, right? Pay off the 500K, take that payment, roll it into the $7,000 debt. When that's paid off, which, that can happen pretty quickly, take all that money and roll it into the $20,000 debt, and so on. So quick plug for Dave Ramsey. So he does have some great ideas and great ways to help optimize. Of course, he's going to tell you, just like that Susie Orman chick or whatever her name is, right? You need 5 to 10 million or something crazy like that to retire. You sure don't. So yeah, I got out of debt, and somewhere along that, I discovered Mr. Money Mustache, right? Anybody who doesn't know about Mr. Money Mustache, just go to probably mrmoneymustache.com. Thank you. Yep. So go check out Mr. Money Mustache. He's got a lot of great content. I think it's where a lot of people discover the fire movement, financial independence, retire early. For anybody who doesn't know, assuming if you're watching this, you're probably well versed in it. Before I knew it, I was saving 30, 40, 50+% of my income every month. And that quickly adds up. Now, one of the things that I learned very early on is it's not about how much you make. Now, of course, you have to make something, okay? But you don't have to make a ton of money. What's important is how much you spend. So if you optimize your spending early on, and we'll talk about ways to do that in other episodes. Of course, there's millions of episodes about that. So I got my debt paid off and took that money and started saving it and saving more. It's kind of like a drug. It's an addiction. But if you lower your expenses, right, you not only, let's say you were spending $90,000 a year, right? And you figured out how you could spend $40,000 a year. Well, at that point, it means you're living off 40K, you're saving an extra $50,000 a year. Plus, if that lifestyle suits you, when you retire, you need a lot less money, right? You don't need $90,000 a year to retire on. You only need 40. So what that means, right, if you're going off the, what's that rule? The 425 rule, 524 rule. I don't know what the hell it is. Whatever that rule is, right? Where you need to save 25 times your annual expenses. That means if you save $1 million and the market continues to perform like it historically has done, I think they use about 7% for that, right? $1 million gets you 40,000K a year. without ever touching your principal. You know, do the math, it's real, and it works. So I had actually set a goal lower than that. I'm going to talk about my numbers here. They're neither really super high or super low. I think they're towards the low end of FIRE, right? But because I think a lot of people want to kind of double, I'd say, where I'm at. But I've gotten my expenses down to about well under $40,000 a year. So, you know, $1 million, I'm good to go. And I'm very happy living on that. Of course, I have plans to travel and live in lower cost places around the world, to live out of an RV, right? My daughter, I have one daughter, she'll be going to college in a couple months. So that definitely does free me up. I understand that there's a lot of situations where that may not work, but what will always work is, you know, unless you've already lowered your expenses to the bone, you're probably going to be able to if you have not gone through this exercise, you should drastically be able to lower your expenses. And in fact, I would love to have some guests on who haven't done that and go through and show you how that can be done without destroying your lifestyle and being unhappy. I know a lot of FIRE people will cut their expenses to nothing and live a fairly, I don't want to say miserable, but not an optimal existence, not a great existence, because they're just trying to get to that goal, whatever their FIRE number is, right? And it's great to get there, but you still need to live along the way. And, you know, America is expensive, I know, but you don't have to spend a lot to live well. Yeah, I guess it depends on what's important to you, right? Depending on what's important to you, you can definitely get by probably on a hell of a lot less than you're spending right now. So anyways, back to my journey. So I began to save a lot, and you know, the market was doing good during those years between, we'll say 2014, 15 to, you know, if you take out the COVID crash, up to about 2021, right? So between saving, market returns, all that kind of stuff, I was able to reach my goal. My original goal was to have $850,000 net worth, and I do include my house in that, even though I can't really spend my house, but it is. So I didn't even have that much cash. It's $850K total. I got there, I exceeded it. Before COVID, I got to over $1 million net worth. And right, as I talked about, my last episode was ready to retire. So that's the last episode we talk about that. But during that time, I should say, after I got there, right, there was a whole COVID mess, and then the big 2021, 2022 market crash, inflation, that has derailed my plans. And, you know, as I talked about in the last episode, I am going to retire if those things are met. So getting back to my journey, I actually found it quite fun to save and to optimize my spending, to live on reasonable amount. And I found that I enjoyed it more. One of the things that I did during this is I moved from a 3,500 square foot house in a moderately expensive area. And it was just me and my daughter part-time, meaning me full-time, my daughter part-time in the house. And it made no sense, you know. And I didn't even enjoy it. It felt big and lonely, and I had to fill it with furniture. So I moved to about a 1,750 square foot house. And it's old, it's from the 70s, has a lot of work to do on it. I love doing that, by the way. But I cut my housing expenses, property tax, mortgage, everything pretty much in half, right? So, and I enjoy it 10 times more. I love it. It's so much more cozy. It's more manageable. It's much easier to clean. It's just nicer, even though it's not nicer. I don't know how to explain it. So I found that, yeah, I went from McMansion in a fairly expensive area to tiny, not really a shack, but tiny house. I'll show pictures. To tiny house in a low-income neighborhood. not poor, but lower income, and I love it. I also reduced my car expenses. So car expenses are one of the killers of savings, and I'm not going to get into that here, but basically pay cash for your cars, buy a car you can afford, buy a car that is just easy on your budget, right? Cars are great. I love cars, and my dream is to have a Ferrari, and someday I will, but that time is not now. When I moved into my small house, I also sold my Porsche Cayenne, my boat, my big lifted truck. I'm not bragging, by the way. It was stupid. I couldn't afford all this stuff, right? So I got rid of tons of stuff like that and bought an $1,800 minivan. Literally walked 5 miles to a used car dealership because I saw this $2,000 minivan. I said, if this thing runs good, I'm buying it. Bought it. I didn't want to walk home. It ran fine. And for like a year, that's all I had. This was during the COVID price spike of used car craziness, where used cars cost more than new. So I was happy just to find something, right? And it worked. And I loved it more than any car I've ever had. I honestly loved my $1,800 POS, I think it was a Chrysler Town & Country minivan with started with 230,000 miles. I love that more than anything. And unfortunately, it's now deceased. RIP, poor minivan, but I loved it so much. During that time, though, I found a truck. I'm in Idaho, and I like to do a lot of outdoor activities, camping, motorsports, things like that. So I found myself a truck for, I think, $12,000-ish, and just paid cash for that. And now that's my only vehicle. That's all I got. I have one older truck, 2008, gets 10 miles per gallon, but I don't drive that much. You know, I've toyed around with the idea of buying a more expensive car, or buying a better gas mileage car. But why do that? This thing works just fine. For the couple of times, maybe once or twice a month where I have to drive a little farther, yeah, gas costs me double or triple what it would. But hey, that's $100 extra a month. If I bought even a decent used car, I'm gonna have a $300 or $400 a month payment. I'm gonna have another car to insure, all those things that go along with that. So, you know, really think about these things. Yeah, I love cars. Plan on getting a new one sometime, but right now this works. So those are the kind of things I did to reduce my spending and still enjoy life. And it's been a great journey. I've never once felt that I was depriving myself. I cut down on my food budget greatly, on my dining out, but I still dine out. I still take vacations. I'm just a bit more careful, and I find that you can have just as much, if not more fun on these lower budget things. So anyways, as I said a couple videos ago, I'm at my highest net worth, but I'm still afraid to retire, but I'm gonna do it. So thanks for listening. I say so way too much. Thanks for listening today. I hope you found this information useful and it inspires you on your journey to financial independence and possibly retiring early. Have a good one. Take care.